Warm up. Sine of A equals, here's A, so 40 over 50 or 4/5. Sine of A again is 36 over 39 or 12/13. 3 goes into them. Cosine of C is 15 over 36. Tangent of X is 12 over 16 or 3/4. Cosine of C is 24 over 40 or 3/5. I think that's, yeah, 3/5. And then the last one is tangent of C, which is 12 over 37. Okay, not too bad. Are we okay with that? That's just what we did yesterday. So now we're actually going to solve. We're going to find missing sides and angles today. And the little, pneumatic thing, I guess, to remember is SOHCAHTOA. So it's right here. It's just the first letter of each word. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Just a way to remember it, right? SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so now we're going to solve these. Find the missing side, round to the nearest tenth. So we're rounding this time. Make sure your calculator is in radians, whichever calculator you use. If you use Desmos is always in radians. You have to change it to degrees. Okay, so you have to change Desmos to degrees every time. I forgot who else. Oh. So here we go. I've marked the angle that I have, which is this one, and then I find I have my hypotenuse, and I have my side opposite. So opposite over, I have hypotenuse and I have opposite. I'm going to slide this down here. So that means I'm going to use sine because I have opposite and hypotenuse. So I'm going to say sine of 51 is going to equal 36 over x. Okay, right? I just set up the equation. And then I'm going to turn this one into a fraction, because when I have two fractions equaling each other, what do I do to solve? Who remembers? If I have two fractions equaling each other, what do you do? Cross multiply. Okay, so I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to multiply this times this and this times that. And I get x sine of 51 equals 36. And I still want to solve for x, so what do I need to do now? If I want to get x by itself, what do I need to do? Anybody? What's with x? Sine of 51, right? So I'm going to divide by, because that's x times sine of 51. So how do I undo times? Divide. It's just like if that said 51x, I would divide by 51, right? Just because it has a sign in front of it doesn't change that. It's just some number. It's just some decimal number that we don't want to write out because it's non-ending, non-repeating decimal number. So we leave it nice and neat and writing it as sine of 51 until we put it into the calculator. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to divide by sine of 51 on both sides. And I'm going to get, right, that becomes a 1. So I've got x is going to be, and I'm rounding it to the nearest tenth. Where's my calculator? So I'm just going to get it out. Maybe. There we go. And I'm pretty sure I'm in. I should make sure that I'm in. I know I'm in degrees because I changed this yesterday. So 36 divided by sine of 51. should be approximately 46.3. Again, make sure if you're using Desmos, you go up to the little wrench at the top of the screen and change it to degrees instead of radians, because it's automatically in radians. Okay. I always forget, just so you know, I do it too. Every time I use Desmos, I forget it's in radians automatically. And it switches back every time you go out of Desmos. So every time you go in, you have to switch it to 2 degrees. Woo. Okay, so number 2, again, I'm going to find my angle. I don't have the hypotenuse this time, but I have the side adjacent right here. And I have the side opposite. So if I'm using SOHCAHTOA, right? I have adjacent and opposite, which is right here. So that's TOA. So that means tangent of 23 is going to equal opposite over adjacent. Okay, again, I make a fraction, cross multiply, and I get x is going to equal 37 tangent of 23 this time. So now I'm just going to put this inside my calculator, and I'm going to get 37 tangent of 23. And that's going to be approximately 15.7. Questions so far? Are we okay? You literally, I know that you guys learned this your sophomore year, and then when you did trig last year, your junior year. So this should all just be a review for the last 2 years of trig functions. And if you've taken physics, you've done trig and physics. So I know you've done it in at least 3 classes already so far. Okay? So, and here's our last one. Here's my angle. I have my hypotenuse and my side adjacent, the side that makes the angle. So if I have my adjacent, I have my A and my H, which is right here. So that means I'm going to use cosine this time. So cosine of 63 is going to equal adjacent, which is 20. That is not a 63. Okay, let's try that one more time. 63 equals adjacent, which is 28 over x. So make 2 fractions, cross multiply, and I get x cosine of 63 equals 28. Divide by cosine of 63. And x is approximately going to be equal to 28 divided by cosine 63. 61.7. 61.7. Questions? So there are 6 problems for you to do just like that. So number 1 here, it looks like we've got, what do we have? Sine of 46 is going to equal x over 36. So I've got x is going to equal 36 sine of 46, which is approximately equal to 25.9. Okay. Awesome. Let's see. On this one, it looks like it's tangent of 75 equals 26 over x. So x is going to equal 26 tangent of 75, which is approximately equal to 7.0. That was a fun one. Okay, again, this is tangent. So tangent of 22 is going to equal x over 33. So x is going to be equal to 33 tangent of 22, which should approximately be equal to 13.3. Any questions so far? Okay. D, let's see, what do we have? We have sine again. So sine of 47 equals x over 25. Cross multiply. X is going to be 25 sine of 47, which is going to be, 18.3. And then, let's see, we've got cosine. So cosine of 24 is going to be equal to x over 39. Cross multiply. X is going to be equal to 39 cosine of 24, which is going to be approximately equal to 32.9. And then the last one looks like cosine again. 8 cross multiply. X is going to be equal to 28 cosine of 56, which is approximately equal to 15.7. Okay, any questions on how to find a side using the trig functions? Are we okay with that? Everyone at home, are you guys okay with that? Guess I should have your pictures up here so I can see if you use little thumbs up or whatever. Okay. So next we're going to talk about how to find a missing angle. So notice we only use sine, cosine, tangent, right? Only regular trig functions to find a side. Well, when we find a missing angle, when we find an angle, I need to use the inverse trig function. Okay, so that's when I start using the inverse trig function. And inverse trig function just undoes sine, right? So what undoes sine? Sine inverse. And how I write that is just this. So sine and sine inverse, right? Cosine, what undoes cosine? Well, cosine inverse. It just has a little exponent to -1, and it doesn't mean like our normal -1 exponent where I take it to the bottom. That little -1 when it has to do with logarithms or trig functions means inverse, okay? So, or functions actually. So if I'm using function notation, that means inverse also. So sine, cosine, tangent. So then I have tangent, inverse. So these are inverse trig functions used to find angles. Here. Yep. Who else is just here? Hunter. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is super hard. I'm going to say we're just going to put this into our calculator. Okay, so I'm going to do inverse. So how do I undo cosine? We just talked about that, right? I don't want cosine of C. I just want to find C. So how do I undo cosine? Well, I do cosine inverse. And if I do cosine inverse on one side, I have to do it to the other. Those rules still apply, right? So I'm going to do cosine inverse to this side. So that means C is going to equal the cosine inverse of 0.3746. So in my calculator, you have to use a calculator to do this. So I'm going to, depending on what calculator you're using, usually you use the shift key, and then it's right underneath sine. It'll say, you know how they write the little different colors on your calculator on it. It'll just say sine inverse right above it. If you're using Desmos, it's just right next. I think it's sine and then sine inverse are right next to it like this. Depending on what calculator you use, you'll find it. So you're going to do sine inverse. Oops. If I can find sine inverse in my calculator. And then I'm just going to put 0.3746 in there and hit enter. And then that's my degree. And we're rounding it to the nearest degree. So C is going to equal 22 degrees. That's it. Okay, so when they give me this part of it, I just have to put it into the calculator. That's it. Okay, so same thing for number 2 here. Tangent of x, I just really want x, so I'm going to do tan inverse. So x is going to equal tan inverse of 0.5543. So that means tan inverse of 0.5543 is going to equal 29 degrees. Make sure you use your degree sign because that is how I label this. Okay? Hunter, did you get any extra work done?
No, I'm going to.
Okay. Just checking. Okay, so please go ahead and do the... Okay, so Z here is approximately equal to 42 degrees. Y is approximately equal to 17 degrees. Woo. Z is approximately equal to 33 degrees. And Y is approximately equal to 73 degrees. Okay, questions? Are we okay with that? Not too bad? All right, so now we'll go to where we actually have to figure it out. And again, we're going to use SOHCAHTOA, right? So I need to find the angle. Sorry, I shouldn't have written that so big. But, oh, you guys can see it on the screen. Whew, maybe. There we go. So I'm looking for this angle, so I need to know which sides I have. Well, I know I have the hypotenuse, and I have the side adjacent. So that means I need to find, that means I'm going to use cosine. So that means I'm going to call this cosine of theta, because I'm not going to put cosine of question mark. So I'm going to call it theta. Hope you guys are okay with that. And that gives me 18 over 37. Okay? But I don't want to know what cosine of theta is. I just want to know what theta is. So I'm going to do cosine inverse to get rid of my cosine. So that means theta is going to equal cosine inverse of 18 divided by 37. And now I don't even have to simplify. I mean, I know I can't simplify 18 divided by 37, but some of the fractions you can simplify. You don't even have to because you're just going to put it into the calculator, right? So you don't worry about simplifying the fractions when you're doing this. It's only when they actually just ask what the sign of something is, right? Not when they want to know what the angle is. So here I'm not even going to bother to simplify. I'm just going to go for my calculator and go cosine inverse of 18 divided by 37. And I should get, are we still to the nearest degree? Yes, we are. So that's approximately equal to 61 degrees. And then, move that over. Number 2, here's my angle. And I have my side adjacent because it's making the angle. And I have my side opposite. That means I'm going to use TOA this time. So tangent of theta is going to equal 14 over 28. And I don't want tangent of theta, I just want theta. So I'm going to do the inverse of tangent. So I get theta is going to equal tan inverse of 14 divided by 28, which is approximately equal to 27 67 degrees. I think they'd have something other to do other than text each other. And then the last one, it looks like I have the side opposite and my hypotenuse. So that means I'm going to do sine this time. Oh, I got one of each in here. That was good of me. I don't always get that in here. So sine of theta is going to equal 21 divided by 20. 21 divided by 23. So sine inverse. So theta is going to equal sine inverse of 21 divided by 23, which is approximately equal to 66 degrees. Questions? You guys okay with this? Okay, so there's, I don't know how many ever this is, seven of these for you guys to do. Go. All right, so here we go. So I think I've got tangent of theta equals 35 over 15. So theta is going to equal tan inverse of 35 divided by 15, which is approximately equal to 67 degrees. And then B, again, is another tangent. Tangent of theta is going to equal 2 over 3. So theta is going to equal tan inverse of 2 over 3, which is approximately equal to 34 degrees. Okay. C should be sine of theta is going to be 8 over 13. So theta is going to equal sine inverse of 8 divided by 13, which is approximately equal to 38 degrees. D is cosine. Cosine of theta is going to be 39 over 42. So theta is going to be cosine inverse of 39 divided by 42, which is approximately equal to 22 degrees. And then we've got, what do we have here? Tangent, it looks like. Tangent of theta is going to be 101 over 47. So theta is going to be tangent inverse of 101 over 47, which is 65 degrees. F is going to be sine of theta, which is going to be 31 divided by 37. Yeah. So theta is going to be sine inverse of 31 divided by 37, which is approximately 57 degrees. And then G, sine of theta is going to be 20 over 42. So theta is going to equal sine inverse of 20 divided by 42, which is approximately equal to 28 degrees. Okay, so just really quick, remember, I'm only using inverse if I'm looking for the angle. So if I'm not looking for the angle, I'm looking for the side, I'm just using the regular trig functions. That's how I know when I'm using the inverse. Okay, because I think that's a lot, that's a lot where people get confused too, is when to use inverse and when not to use the inverse. I use the inverse when I'm looking for an angle. I use the regular trig functions when I'm looking for a side. Okay, so there is a Delta math assignment. And it's, I don't know, 7 problems of finding a side and 7 problems of finding an angle. I think that's what it is. I just made it this morning. You think I'd be able to remember. And then once you get done with that, you can work on missing homework. And I'm going to put stuff in the computer for